First stop, Louisville.
Hi,
How's it going, party people? Hey, wake up. It's not time to sleep yet. So is it all gonna fit?
Say we won't need my water. Is that better? Don't even dance. Not right, and that's just not right.
How's it go?
Stop looking! Good. What are you laughing at? Are you trying it again?
Wave. I believe we are here. Yeah. We have arrived. Welcome to the big house.
Get out of the way!
Oh my gosh, forever! Like you've been driving for 2 hours or something.
I know.
All right, we want to welcome everyone here to Labor of Love, Utah. And Shelly and I are overwhelmed that all of you came. When you put something like this out there and you don't know whether it's going to be just your family. There.
6 of us.
6 of us.
We're all right.
And we are just overwhelmed with what all of you did to come here. This is your house for the week. We're all family, and we're all here for the same reason, to serve and to love. And we want you to feel comfortable and get to know one another and have a great time. So thank you all for coming. We appreciate it. Kelly, what did you want to say?
I don't ever talk.
Let's see. Shelly's only like on the radio. She's the I will be doing a book signing. But what these projects that we have picked, these 2 houses that we are doing, we're going to need a lot of work, and it's not as hot as you think. It's okay. But these women are amazing, and Susan is our miracle worker. She finds these golden nuggets, and everybody needs to go to both houses at least one time.
All right, Benjamin.
Oh yes, got my shoes.
Yalla! We're going to break into groups and go to the job sites. The first thing we want to do this morning is pray a blessing on the food and thank Britney Spears and her family. Yay!
Britney Spears.
Help us to have good conversation and help us to have physical strength. And so many of us are not sleeping as much. And help us to be blessed with physical strength to be able to serve and to be able to find special happiness and peace as we go through these days.
These things are interesting to put on. My my memories of it have a lot to do with what we went through last year in Joplin. You know, Shelley and I were looking for service projects, neither of us knowing the area, neither of us in town, and calling around and trying to find suitable places to serve for the skills of the people who were coming. And when we heard that it was coming here to Salt Lake, I was so excited and I was overwhelmed by the thought of having you all come here to my hometown to serve. And yet it was still hard to find the right service projects here. And this one home, Norma's home, we call it the White House, the larger of the two houses. Her home was selected for that project. And then when the person went out to survey it, he unselected her, and she was devastated. And Norma is probably in her late 60s. Her mother lives nearby, has had 2 strokes in the last couple of years, the most recent one in May. And she's still in her home and unable to care for herself. So Norma will not be at her home during the day because she's caring for her mom. From about Blanche her knee needs to be operated on, but they can't do it because of her other health conditions. And I noticed that she had furniture in a garbage can kind of lining the walk to her front door. And it's because she needed something to hold on to. The screen door was hanging off and broken. The paint looks like it hadn't been painted in at least 15 years. And peeling off really, really bad. And don't bypass the chance to get to know these people that we're serving, because that's why we're here. The work is a byproduct, but we're here to connect with people and have change their life and change ours too.
Callie.
Wow. It says something about cobwebs.
Kelly? Yep.
We're going to do black.
Yep.
Don't go black and white, but Lucy has these crazy.
How's it look?
Looks a lot better.
How are you guys doing? What you guys been working on back here?
Painting the wood. I think I had too much things on.
Yeah?
Yeah. I think that was why my eyes were getting wide.
Looks good.
Strength and nourishment to finish this our work today. And please let us that we will all have the best time while we're here together.
Amen.
Amen.
I can't hear you.
You get to do it again tomorrow.
We'll see how I feel coming down. I got kind of scared when the ladder started wobbling. Is this like... I have help over here, don't I?
Yes.
Get up here.
Well, we still got some to go, but we made a good start today, and we're still going for a
That
while.
looks good. You want me to come out and do something?
Oh, you've been taking care of your mom all day.
Oh,
So.
what?
So how's everybody doing? Did you have fun today?
Kelly.
Well, I guess you two did, but I'm not sure about this one. Did you have fun today?
I did. I had a great time.
So what does all this mean to you?
Quit.
Kansas.
Yeah.
You guys are doing a good job on the deck.
Shrink it. Oh, man.
I went on the roof. Haley and I painted it. We did it burning so freaking hot. It melted, started to melt my rubber glove onto my hand.
Yes, and it feels like your skin is going to
Yes.
stay on the shingles.
Yes, it was awesome. I loved it.
What happened here? Is this a workers' comp issue here?
Yes, it's a workman's comp issue. Oh, yuck.
Here's some more time.
Okay, step closer. Show us the leg. Were you playing paintball?
No, they.
This like a hazing thing?
It does.
Is this how? Do you have to do this to join Red Bus?
Every bit of godliness I've done.
I'm out.
Tell the national data.
How's it going?
Oh, it's going good. Did you hear about my mishap? I've been dive bombed by a wasp and a spider. It's like National Geographic. Oh, that breeze is beautiful!
They said.
Burn those restrooms up. They're gonna be-
Scared. He's the man. Look at that.
That I cannot believe. I left for 4 hours. Shauna came over, and I think it was the Popes and David Lund and Marie. I think Marie Maloney was. Where's Marie?
Marie Maloney's an animal.
Where is she? Did you stay here and do it? Dave, you need a shirt. Okay. How are you, sweet potato?
You guys are so sweet.
Who hasn't met Blanche yet?
I haven't.
They were over at Norma's house and they never got out of This is Mary Jean. All right, let me go. No.
That is nice of you.
Does it look wonderful to you? You haven't even seen it yet, Blanche.
All right.
Are you ready to see it?
You guys are doing
All right.
such a
Move that banner! Walk up to your little They have worked on your whole yard.
Oh, they have.
There's your pretty new blanket.
All right.
Do you see your custom made I can sleep here every day mat that I've had on your swing?
Oh, how nice. Thank you.
I've tested it because I didn't want it to be wrong, and it's okay.
All right.
You're gonna be all right. So, can we take you for a little walk around your house?
We emptied out your backyard.
Oh, shh. Okay. All right. We're gonna come right through here, gentlemen. Stay behind.
How about that?
How about that is right. Look at your beautiful new green, not red.
All right. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh my gosh. I can actually see in there. How nice is that?
Wait, we're not done. Stay, honey, you need to stay back. You're making me nervous. She's really wobbly.
Yeah, no, Kevin. Wow.
What? What is this,
Hey,
Blanche?
what is this?
Did you know you had a backyard?
Not really.
I didn't.
I didn't either. How nice is that?
Look at this.
All right.
We're taking an actual stroll around your house that hasn't been done in how long? 99 years, Blanche said it's been since she walked around this house.
That's a true story.
True story. So how do you like it so far?
Oh, honey, it's wonderful.
What's going on at Grandma's house?
How about that? How nice
Kaden,
is
come
that?
here. This was for you. Come here, Kaden.
what?
Those are called porch lights. When's the last time you had a honey? I want you in your chair. Seriously, go sit. I painted that just for you. Sit in that. I want to see if it fits. Does it fit?
Thank you.
Okay, this is the moment. This is the moment right here. Go to your seat.
This is my. How nice is that? No feet on here.
What did you
That's big enough for me.
Oh,
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
You're welcome.
we love you, Blanche.
Thank you. I love all of you. Thank you. This is wonderful. This is what I do, take a nap every day.
Exactly. Well, it's got to feel a bit better than it felt before.
Oh, yes, it will. It'll hurt my bones when I roll over.
Just don't roll.
Out the road around the poles, God only knows. He was always cold, but the land of gold seemed to hold him like a spell, and he'd often say in his only way that he'd sooner live in hell. On Christmas Day, we were munching our way over the Dawson Trail. Speak of the cold through Parker's fold, stab like a driven nail. If our eyes we closed and our lashes froze till sometimes we couldn't see. And it wasn't much fun, but the only one to whimper was Sam McGee. That's enough of that one.
And Susan and I both went, oh. Because when you look at your house again, you just say, it's the same color. But it is so much better. But what about those chairs, Norma?
I love them. That was the biggest surprise when I
These are her grandmother's chairs.
Oh.
They are antique. They are the most comfortable. They're like rocking chair things.
so neat.
And we're going to be making you some custom pads to go on there next. So we have a few more things going on. We just got a little warm. But I would like all the kids to come over and stand on the sidewalk. All the kids. But who would like to take her on a tour to the backyard? Ben, come on, Ben. Come on, cowboy.
Oh, isn't that beautiful? Look at that. Whoa. Look at that. No more Tilly ones. Oh, that is awesome. Thank you.
Okay. David and his friends actually came over here. Came over here on Friday night. They came Friday day while we were scraping the house and getting it prepped. He and his friends came over here, measured all this out, went home, built the stairs, and then came back like 8, 9 o'clock that night and installed the stairs, new railings, new toppers, new everything.
You lifted it. It was so dark.
Lifted the deck. The deck had collapsed down in the back. And she has 2 little tiny great-granddaughters that come in and out and play back here every day. And they were going down that. Ricky said she was terrified. She was terrified. So, I know I'm not going to say anything else because I know my brother-in-law is going to get embarrassed. But anything woodworking, the railing at the other house, everything woodworking was done by this guy. And now we know we have a friend in Taylorsville. We left it a better place, and I know that you're happy that you. And we have a new screen door for you. And as soon as the deck's dry, we're gonna go up there and install that. Now, this was made for you by one of our volunteers' grandmothers. And she had no idea what colors your house was being painted. But it's amazing. I have the feeling you might like this color.
I love it.
No! But no, so
Okay, so we have a special crew here, and I'll let Shelly explain what sets you guys apart.
the part that sets us apart is we were the ones stupid and crazy enough to go on top of the roofs of these houses to paint and do repairs, and we are all alive. I don't know if we're all okay, but we're alive. So we are the special ed crew. No, we can't say that.
Yeah.
Special crew.
You're the
Yeah, special crew. Idiot crew. Yeah, the idiot crew.
The roofing
You know
crew.
Robin's spot since you're down here? Robin was up there
Yeah, I got video of that
Doesn't look
too.
that bad
until you're. Yeah.
So you're standing down in the driveway down a hill.
Kelly, come on. This is just for us.
Am I getting it?
Yeah, it's pretty dark.
Come on, MC Cal.
Taco Bell's right there.
I know.
She want to sing, bro? Butt nugget.
What was that?
Nothing. You said butt nugget.
Birthday boy, say your birthday. Today's your birthday. Oh, there's the paddle. Who has the paddle?
I'm very excited that we can all fit. So, but we are very excited to have you here on the mountain and to have a day of rest.
And that you have graciously brought us together for this opportunity to serve you through serving other people. And we ask you to bless the food we are about to eat. And we ask you to bless those who have prepared it. And bless all of us here and give us joy in sharing food and time together. And in your Son's holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right, so Jimmy and his family have come all the way from Jerusalem from on the moon, and can you tell me one of the merit boxes? You saw a picture of this on our website, but at my request, we sent Jimmy this artwork, and with just a few days' notice, he was able to make 30 of these boxes.
Hey, can you just get here?
And Sean and
Yeah, I was hearing part of that conversation as the call was coming in. So they were pretty. So what exactly happened at school?
Yeah, I was on a.
So how good is that watermelon?
This would make you believe in God if you did not believe in God. This watermelon would make you believe in God.
Well put.
This is one of God's creatures.
It's proof that God loves us, right? He made animals out of meat.
Yes, he did.
Yep. Okay, so here we are at the Sealam Estate on Aspen Mountain with our two fearless leaders, Shelly and Susan. So how's the? We're only on Wednesday right now, right? Losing track of time. It's just Wednesday. So, but so we've done the two service events. So how's for you guys? How's this week been going so far?
Amazing. I am amazed that you start something like this. You never know whether it's just going to be your family show up, and to have this many people come so far to serve people that they don't know, but they'll never forget. Right?
I'm exhausted. But it's exhausted a different kind. It's not like tired. It's a great exhaustion, and the faith I live off her faith a bit, because I honestly didn't know if people would show up, and we've committed to do some big jobs, and people came that just miracle people. I call them it's miracle people, and the things we were able to accomplish in our little wonderful group of people is incredible. So,
but it's not over.
This is just. But I'm just saying, this is just our beautiful break while we enjoy this lovely night, and then let's get it.
I've never heard my house called an estate before, though. I'm kind of uncomfortable with that. Here we are in this beautiful setting.
Yes.
That you just really can't inside.
It's a pretty good view.
We're beginning Independence Day tomorrow and Man in the Moon, and then we have a couple of other get-togethers for our group.
This is what it's about.
It is.
It's not about the
It's not about the event.
It's about building this community that's in this house today, and that will continue. That'll show up tomorrow.
And I think, I said this when we were in Dallas too. It's not ever about an event. It's about inspiring people. And then once they're inspired, they'll get to work.
Yes, if you build it.
Yeah. Labor of love.
Labor of love.
That's right. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having us.
I don't think you knew, because
I didn't know. So you're doing this interview. You're not used to being on TV.
We were very nervous.
And so Shelley comes up just randomly and gives me this big hug and caught me off guard and brings me back.
It was hilarious because Raj says, "Hey, I just want to see awkward hugs."
Did he want an awkward? He
wanted yes,
I gave it to him.
That's what I said. He said he wanted random awkward hugging of an unexpected hugging.
Yes.
And so here's Susan, and she's talking, but you weren't talking at the moment.
I don't remember.
You weren't. I was just supposed to walk up and hug you, and then you were like, "Why are you hugging me right now? I'm doing an interview." And then it was all over. Then all of us, the whole crew, started laughing. That was pretty funny. So yeah, that was our first experience with. It was on hold all morning to talk.
Yeah. So yesterday they said call back at 7. So I called back at 7 and I got on the phone and then the call dropped. And I had to call back in and I got in again. And the producer was very nice. He came on the phone a couple times and talked to me.
They were talking to me too that day.
Keith.
Yeah.
He knows his name.
You're
just speakerphone. That's That's why the call dropped the first time, because I put it on speakerphone and he comes on the phone and I'm trying to get off the speakerphone.
That's what happened when Glenn started talking to me. That's why there's that awkward beginning, like, "Hey, hey!" And I'm like, "Run! I just hit the numbers button. I don't have my glasses on for the."
Hello. Hi. How are you, Glenn? How are you? Yes. This is Shelley.
It would have been such a good call today. Are you recording? Yeah, such a good call.
Are you? Hey, Fred.
I told you we were doing an interview.
We love Glenn and we love the staff, right?
Did you see how proud he was of Shelley? Were you watching her interview while he was on it?
Oh, I saw it later. But
he just sat back and smiled and
yeah, it's a great look.
This is exactly what he wanted to hear from Shelley. He was so proud. He was happy.
And I didn't have a clue till about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, because I hung up on the phone with him and immediately ran out the house to go to Blanche's. And then I come to get in the car at about 2 o'clock after 105-degree heat, and my poor family just slaving over this house. And I get my phone and I've got like 5,000 Facebook things, and they just told us, "Get off the bus."
Yeah, and so I stepped into what I thought was a puddle of water, and it was a puddle of oil. And I went down on the street. It was casualty. And
you sat there, we put you in the chair, you put your foot up, they put some ice on it, and then they went and bought you that spray for pain.
Yes.
But while you sat in that thing, you sat there and went, "Bring me that Camel." And I would go get the Camel.
I need the Noah's Ark.
Can you go get that Noah's Ark? And we would bring you the Noah's Ark. Well, is there another one? I don't. Oh, okay. And then, she's trying. Don't forget, this is still. She's just a disaster. She's so hurt. And then what was it, like the Joseph Smith, and we found Leah Hona, and she's like, "Yeah, that one too." And the guy then he started bringing more stuff out of the back when he realized what you liked. And now that's the Jimmys that those two have like bonded. That's how he's here. And but that was
Jimmy.
And then they drove her back to. She got a different tour than the rest of us.
I did. I broke my ankle. The first day in Jerusalem. I'd been on the streets of Jerusalem maybe 100 yards.
No. 4 steps. We were next to the bus when you fell.
Really? I thought we were farther away.
Honey, that's why I was like,
farther away.
Get back on. If the bus is here, get on the bus.
But
No.
There were a couple
Hollywood.
there were a couple of just really amazing,
Oh my gosh.
amazing things that happened.
Yep.
So who stayed behind again?
About half of Bread Busse stayed behind, and we got lost in East Jerusalem, and then we made it to Jimmy's Bazaar, and then at the hotel.
Oh my gosh. Wow, picky.
Take.
We're on the way to the rodeo!
Sounds like. Are you up for it? Oakley? How about it? You want to have a good time on a Wednesday night? All right, here's the to say I'm an American tonight. Just, all right, boys, I'm ready. Let's do it. Check this out. Wow. Utah Happy. Oh, no. Wow.
You got stepped on.
Okay, trying to be quicker than a 3-9. Big to Justin again. Stick it on him. This horse, it's going to work for us. Come on, Weston. No, don't do that. I'm surprised they knew how to spell it. Easy. Would you get out of here kindly? One to the left, 2 to the right. Look at this yellow horse. This deer is getting after it. Utah, do it. Round the line, rip him out of there. Something we're next to nothing. Take a ride to the big bro. Find a spot for you to pick up. With a moonlight lit up. Take a lid off the good stuff. We're getting loose now. We got the fuse out. We're gonna set the summer on. Before we get out of here tonight, I want to ask you one more question. What do you think of our game of professional rodeo? We're going to do it again tomorrow night, same time, same place. And I hope you'll join us. Until then, remember this. If you ain't living on the edge, you're taking up way too much room. Good night, everybody.
It was 6:20, 6:25, 6:30. Then I'd go to commercial break at the bottom of 6:30. I still haven't had one word from the host of the show.
The most rewarding thing to me is having known him for 24 years to have seen the person he's become. And that's not going to sound sincere because I never am. But it is.
What was that song about?
Dead Dogs songs in the 70s, I think.
Yeah, that was because the dog floated out to sea, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So we're thinking, what's the worst?
But maybe she'll find an island where there's shade
we have a dog, they didn't find an island.
No, they're not. The dog, they're not.
Don't try that at home.
So Nancy and Leo, the stage is yours.
Years later, a gentleman by the name of John Adams said this about the Constitution. It was written for a moral and religious person. It is wholly inadequate for anyone else. You have to have that change on the inside. But what we do won't work. Our leaders have to have the character, integrity, and moral standard that we have, or we're not doing our job. So that's where our spiritual liberty came from. And it was, but folks, being the Christian people they were, they lived by the golden rule. And if you and I went out and worked in your crop field and mine didn't, I'd be inclined to help you out because you worked hard. On the other hand, if you and I went out to work, you worked hard and I did not, you would not be inclined to help me at all. The best thing you could do for me was say, get up and get to work. When they landed on the tip of Cape Cod, they thanked the God of heaven for putting them back on solid land. And at the end of that first winter, when we lost half of our people, had a decent crop that next season, and it came into the November, October, they thought they should get on their knees and thank God for the fact that 51 of them were still alive, and they had enough food to get through that winter. Our country is formed on Christian principles, and that is good. Folks, Christianity is inclusive. You do not have to be a Christian to reap the benefits of a Christian society. God did not say all Christians are equal under the law. He said all people are equal under the law. Happy Independence Day. God bless you.
The artist who painted this is colorblind and had not picked up a paintbrush in 30 years since he was in college. And he created this beautiful painting. The message is, the statue represents the legacy. The garden represents that the legacy is still alive and growing. But if you notice in the foreground, it's parched, neglected, and dying, which is where we are as a nation. In the background is the storms. These represent the intense national storm we're currently going through. But the message is that if we will turn to the heavens, these storms are the very thing that can nourish and give life to the garden.
That is special.
And it was a great, I mean, it was probably the best experience I've had.
Great. Okay, cool. All right. Well, how's everybody doing?
We're doing great. The kids are done. Especially. We had saw the museum and now it's done.
Yeah. That's what we're going to now.
Oh, it's awesome.
Yeah, we love to.
But they never let you touch anything. And so it's all dusty stuff and people in powdered wigs, and you don't really even know what it is. We think that a museum should be different. Soon David Barton and I are planning on building a museum in National Archives with the help of a lot of other really cool people. We're going to try to make it a museum where we can bring history to life.
It tells us today that they were very rarely used, in contrast with one of the first Bibles that was transported to America. That is going to be a version of the Geneva translation that you'll be able to see further down as well.
In the United States. There are others that belong here. This is what
We wanted to better understand who we were fighting against and why, so we read the Quran and then started having them printed in the United States for Americans to read and understand why we are at war.
Thank you.
Very
You
cool.
must have heard my comment. Well, maybe. It's nice to be able to look and hear what's in the case as you're coming
That's what we're
through.
here for, so.
Yes.
I'm from Salt Lake, even though I came down here to help one of my friends I'm from Fairbanks, Alaska, and that's where my beautiful bride were married 29 years ago. And it's absolutely wonderful. But it took them 40 years to be able to build that building. It's because it's made out of granite from the quarry up in here. So they had to ship down all the cubes of granite, very similar to like what they did in the pyramid time. But they built this. So in 1893, this is a dedication. Very important to people of the LDS Church. This one right here is a very nice one.
Yeah, now these are actually there's several books on the bottom. We got one right here on your left. It's actually published in the early 1800s. It was printed that obviously they were trying to win the next generation.
Yep.
Kind of break that cycle that had been developed
Yep.
in America. The dehumanizing of human beings based on the color of their skin.
Almost in the whole museum. It's a letter handwritten by Lincoln himself, laying out the arguments against slavery, which really confirms that he was actually anti-slavery, which for some reason people try to debate now.
Yes.
But that's one of the most expensive pieces we have here. It's just really, really important, a really valuable piece of history right there. Next to it, we have the John Wilkes Booth Manifesto. His sister had this in her possession for a while, but didn't open it until after the assassination. But it details how he planned on kidnapping and ultimately killing Lincoln, which his plan kind of fell through a little bit. But that's...
Okay. That's a pretty big sampling. Well, there were 10 million copies printed in the U.S. and 300 million people, so that's about one for every 30 people. It's the same events as, hey, here's a conservative that's pretty funny, and he's a little more funnier than Rush or something like that. Glenn that year was inspired, and he saw our country be on fire.
That mortar pestle there, that's the actual Mr. Walgreen, Walgreens Pharmacy, 1892 right there.
The whole year started from the Alamo. This is the original letter written a year before he was killed in the Alamo. Now, as we're going chronologically, we're moving to Mammoth, and it is the only scripture, either Bible or Book of Mormon, that he signed his name in. And you can see, as Jonathan Duff, you can see his name. It is signed twice. And back here is Joseph Smith was general over the Nauvoo Legion, and he told them to disband. This is 3 days, and this is also the letter he says that I'm going like a lamb to the slaughter. Question. Let me ask you a question. Okay. What year was the first edition King James Bible printed?
This is painting rather dark, but this was actually painted by an individual at Auschwitz prison, one of the concentration camps. This is a rare picture, the same picture that you've seen down here with the raising of the flag, and this one is autographed by all the survivors. We have a number of interesting information. Instructions for anyone of Japanese ancestry. This little small chest below was actually at Manzanar or Topaz, and these were what your people would keep their personal possessions in, as well as a pair of shoes. Japanese invasion of D-Day on June 6th, We have next to that, the military report based upon the 19th century, early 20th century Islam economy. In this case, there are some extremely rare instances throughout American history. There's a signscape here by Rosa Parks of her experience on a bus, which she's thrown off of, a signed photograph. An autographed item from Louis Armstrong. We have Booker T. Washington's Up From Slavery.
Where Glenn is heading, to try and take back the culture. Just like, where would we be as a country without Walt Disney? Like I think, single one of us here has been touched by something that Disney has done. And we really hope as a company that Glenn can help, and you, most importantly, can help shape that future.
That's a great analogy of Disney, because Disney knew not only marketing but understanding of innovation and bringing something, talking about the future. As a kid in '65, I was talking by a picture the kidnapping and then her involvement in that. Then we come into this.
Mercury One and I would like to put 10 trucks, semi-trucks on the road, unlike anything anybody's ever seen. We'd like to put a museum on tour, 365 days a year for the next 2 years. We'd like to stop at every church, every school that will have us, and that seems to be getting smaller and smaller. Every township, every hollow, every state fair, and every rodeo to show America the truth, the undeniable truth, because we got the goods to back it up. Help us.
Thanks so much for coming, guys. We're so excited. So a lot of the artifacts that we are going to be seeing. So he has some deeper knowledge of some of the. So come on in and watch past the plan and meet you guys inside.
There's no, I haven't had both pints yet. Just relax. When they start doing the finales in a little bit. Sandy's City. Sandy's is going on. We're having. I'm really irritated by these stadium lights, though.
One direction at once.
Oh, hey, the stadium lights went out, you guys. Where? Straight ahead, the stadium went out, so that means we're going to get another one in a second. Where's the stadium? That was straight ahead of us.
Like right where those
the place where they're on lights.
Yeah.
Oh, like that black area?
Yeah.
Dark area in the middle.
Maybe we could call them and flash them once for us. Flash.
You see that place where they
I said, not like that. Not flashing like that.
So they're going to start their show?
Here's the line.
And
I was like, I just got straight up
got
like,
gas
bow.
and beaver. Did you?
I got gas and beaver.
It's so hard. It's so hard for me to let those things go. It's just like, how was the prices?
Did she say what I think she said?
Did you get full service in Beaver?
All right, that's my sister. I want that noted, Tony, on whatever all of that thing happened.
So that was all your sister. And what is she again?
I'm the innocent angel.
How would you describe your sister again?
How would I?
An
absolute angel.
Not a dirty little.
Not a dirty little beaver, that's wrong. But an absolute angel. And if you're videoing right now, I see light in her face right now. That is not a good sign.
That's just the reddish glow.
Yeah.
That's her,
If you open up your scripture. Well, I had to get out of the way because I had to find the person who was actually given the calling. And when I got on the plane, I looked at Hutch and I said, "You're the man." And then I looked at David and he said, "I feel it, bro." That's just the way it goes.
Words don't exist in Hebrew. It's because the concepts are false. The concepts don't exist. Now, obviously, modern Israel has come up with words that don't exist in the Bible. For instance, a telephone. There had to be a Hebrew word for a telephone, obviously, and they came up with a beautiful word. Would you like to hear how it sounds in Hebrew? Telephone. As it had lately, is that, for instance, there's no word in Hebrew for fair. Now think about it. You know, all our kids from there, they all grow up, and how quickly do children learn, that's not fair! Well, what does that mean? According to, like, what is fair? That everybody gets the same amount of everything? There's another word for that, it isn't fair. So what does fair mean? There isn't such a thing. There's justice, there's law. For many of you here, there is no Hebrew word for retirement.
Yes.
So
catch that as part of the movement. Nobody gets out of this thing.
No, that's why it's important. You know, Hutch isn't retiring, David's not retiring, and heaven knows I'm not. And none of you should think in terms of retirement either. And really, when you get right down to it, here's what's wrong with retirement. What's wrong with it is that when we make money and you actually hold a dollar bill in your hands, that is evidence that you have served another one of God's children. Right? Unless you held up a convenience store to point a gun and took it out of their till. You are so good at your Hebrew, it's wonderful.
Good rabbi.
Love all of us. And a few minutes ago, I heard Pastor Hutchison talking about this idea that we're here right now this afternoon. We weren't here yesterday, we're not going to be here tomorrow, we're here right now at this very moment. A transformational moment, a moment where each and every one of us can literally say to ourselves, from here onwards, the rest of my life is going to be more purposeful and more passionate than anything I've ever done up till now. And the absence of the idea of coincidence, oh, I just happen to be here, you know, I had nothing better to do. No, there is no Hebrew word for coincidence. Coincidence is just a bad word that is intended to camouflage God's involvement in the world.
Yes.
As a black man in the late 50s, 60s, was not a very easy chore. It was extremely taxing. It is something that is very difficult for those who never had to go through it to really, really understand it. It was nothing in the world to be looked upon as indolent, to think that if you are making great grades, and you have to be cheating somehow, to have to ride on the back of the bus even though you pay the same amount to get on that bus, to go to stores and there are 3 bathrooms. And you probably have heard of white bathrooms and colored bathrooms. But most of you have never really understood that there was always 3 bathrooms in public places. There were white females, white males, and colored. And the doctor had a waiting room for whites and a back porch that was screened in for blacks. So it didn't matter what the weather was like. It was screened in back porch. Half the time we was glad to get the screens because it kept the flies in the summer and animals during the winter out the porch. And you did not get in line according to when you arrived if you was black. What you did is you came, signed up, sit down, and when that white doctor did not have any other patients, he would call you in or slip you in. I had the greatest privilege in all the world, and that was to be a great athlete. But that wasn't enough, you know, because if I beat you as a white guy, they told you that my bone structure was different. And that I was built like an animal. So physically. I'd win. So I determined that I was never going to let one white person in the world beat me academically. I mean, was going to do it. It was not going to happen. And I read, and I read, and I studied, and I read. Someone white made 90, I made sure I was making 91. If someone white made 95, I was going to make sure I made 96. And if someone... So when I became a Christian, I realized God had become my coach. And I wanted to be the best. The Bible was my playbook. And I had to know everything in that playbook. And I averaged for the next 6 years, 5 to 8 hours a day studying the Bible. And I spent that time becoming what I wanted to be, a scholar, because no one's going to know the playbook better than me. And I never, ever tried to change the play. In my hatred for whites, but you know what changed me the most? It's my hatred for people. I spent 8 years, I'm the only child, folks. Only child. And I spent 8 years after my grandmother died of not having one voluntary conversation with my mother because I blamed her for my grandmother dying. And the first person I had to call when I became a Christian was my mother. Believers. And he so changed my life that blacks would not have anything to do with me in my own hometown for 3 years because I wouldn't fight whites anymore. They called me out the tongue. They called me a traitor. Not in front of my face. They was afraid to do that. You know why? Because he has changed my heart so greatly that I married the whitest white woman in the world.
It's been a great privilege to speak at Antioch Bible Church in Kirkland, Washington, Pastor Hutchison's church, and it's the most racially blind place. There's mixed couples, black couples, white couples. It's great. It's just completely normal and a very refreshing corner of the state of Washington.
Now, let me throw out something too that Glenn wanted us to emphasize and also kind of help you drive home. For any of you that might have heard what I did yesterday morning, it was talking about the 5 principles out of the Declaration. One is a fixed moral law. We don't ever cut God out of the public arena, but in the civil arena where we're working, this is not the theology side of it. It's the God side of it, but it's not the theology side of it. And so several questions here asked, well, how can you work with atheists or those of other faiths? It's real simple. As long as you're pointed in the same direction, same values, not going to cut God out of what you do, you can cooperate together. And so what we do, when we march on Sunday morning all together down, it's not a Mormon service, it's not a Christian service, it's not a Jewish service, it's celebrating God. And we're not trying to do theological things with each other, we're trying to do common cultural things. We want to save a culture, quite frankly. We want to save the Constitution, we want to save the country.
Politics is nothing more than the practical application of your most deeply held moral values. That's all it is. When the government imposes confiscatory rates of taxation on hard-working American families in order to underwrite multi-generational dysfunction and cakes and candies and soft drinks being purchased with food stamps, when the government imposes confiscatory rates of taxation on you to underwrite dysfunctionality, that is somebody's moral value. It isn't mine, it's not David's, it's not Hutch's, it isn't yours, but it is somebody's.
Because of the way 24/7, 365 media works, we're focused on Washington, D.C. stores. And so we want to change things at the top. Let me tell you, you can change things from the bottom up, not from the top down. And if you don't focus on local communities, you'll never get, it's like building a farm team. If you don't have a farm team, you'll never get the right people in office up top. We're so concerned about who we're going to elect up top, we never build a farm team. You need to focus on school board elections, on municipal water district elections, on junior college board elections. You need to focus. Program the other day, a girl got suspended for a year and a half because she had fingernail clippers in her purse, and they called that a weapon. Fingernail clippers. Now, you show up at that school board meeting, if you can't get satisfaction, you're going to show up at the polls and elect all new 7 school board members who are going to hire a different superintendent and president. It's going to be real easy to do. 1,000 votes, you can have yourself a school board. I mean, it's kind of, and so that's the way we're going to go at this thing. Get your eyes off federal, no, don't get your eyes off federal level. Watch that, but don't get frustrated because you can't change what's going on at the federal level. You start focusing on changing things at the local level, that will trickle up, just like the civil rights movement did back in the 60s. You start showing up all over the South, and JFK says, yeah, we're going to have to do it. Maybe we ought to pass a civil rights bill in Congress. Look at all the rights we got going in Birmingham and stuff. That's what happens. You get so many fires going so many places that they have to deal with it up here. And that's the way this is going to be. So you get a lot more information. We hope to roll stuff out probably in September. At that point, we're going to need your help letting us know when stupid things are going in communities and school boards. We mobilize teams, get them in there, get media there, get the blaze there, get it covered, make it radioactive so nobody else wants to do it. We can get that going all over the nation. So that's part of the plan.
Thank you for your son, Jesus, Lord, that has died, that we have accepted his death, and that through that payment we have the right to come to the very throne that you are, that you
I don't know these specific things like MC and
You know, Susan works here,
downstairs.
so that's why we got this. I'm just so impressed. So this is for.
Thank you, Susan.
I'm going to keep this job until my son gets married. I've already decided. But I just wanted to kind of tell you some of the people that are here. The Utah State Militia. You guys can raise your hands. They we put out a call for help. We put out a call for help. Nobody came. And I was there by myself, and they came to help. At Blanche's house, they did so much work. They cut down trees and did so much stuff. And then they were there Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. They're the only groups of people that came and crept on campus. Well, yeah, between us, and you left me. And Lindsay is our princess. This is Lindsay, the producer. But I just want you guys to visit, and we're actually starting to see people for the first time, like their actual faces. Yeah. So this is kind of fun. I'm at a stress level about 99, but I'm coming down.
Sir. They have stuff from like the Spanish position. They have.
Okay, so we'll figure that out. My tickets all changed to
That'd be cool. See, since like 3. Wow. Perfect truck.
Back up.
Tony Cat!
The military community by giving every customer the opportunity to send one of those t-shirts to an active duty.
I want to leave you with this thought. Our country does not guarantee you success, but liberty guarantees you the opportunity to succeed.
My life. That same man that had been talking before about hope and change now was talking about how the rich were evil, about how they oppressed the people, and about the need to redistribute the wealth. He began attacking the press, curtailed freedom of the press, attacking religion, confiscating property, Then he began instituting socialized medicine and imposing wage and price controls, basically reducing everybody's salary to a least common denominator. As a result, productivity was destroyed, free enterprise was destroyed. To give you an idea, today in Cuba, the average salary is $14 a month. $14 a month. You know, as we see what's happening today in this country, perhaps some of us could get this solution. I think the most ominous words I've ever heard was in the last two State of the Union addresses, when our president said, if Congress does not act, I will act unilaterally. Not much different than that or bearded friend that I left behind in Cuba, governing by decree, by executive order, just like a dictator like Fidel Castro. Men of God seeking wisdom from above. And those truths are as relevant today as they were 230 years ago. I praise God for men like Glenn Beck and Matt Kibbe.
Obama wants you to think that government is just the things we do together, but in reality, what we have in this country is really at this point an elite corporate government partnership that works against the people to their own benefit. They create these systems where we're all pitted against one another, where what America is truly built on is that sense of community, which is what we're here celebrating tonight. So while the government may be working to pit people against each other, whether it's in a generational context, whether it's in a racial context, we need to realize that together, we're bigger than government.
Anybody out there who is a God-fearing, Bible-believing American who will in fact stand up for God and country and the principles that made this country. Yes, sir. I told the group earlier today that what America needs is a leader that has character. Not a leader that looks good on television or can play basketball or looks good in a suit. We need a leader in the White House who has character. We need a leader in the Senate who has character. The courage for that slave in that system to say to his master, to say to himself, I don't want your food. I don't want your housing. I don't want your clothing. I just want freedom. And whatever it takes for me to have my own individual and personal freedom, even if it costs me my life, that's what I'm going to have. And so it was also, my friends, with the Mayflower Pilgrims, when they set sail for an unknown land, they had no guarantees that they'd ever see freedom. They had no guarantees that even if they made it to these shores, that they would ever enjoy freedom. And so, my fellow Americans, in the DNA of every citizen of this country is a thirst for liberty and freedom, and that must not go away. We must always defend that part of who we are. As I leave you, I want you to understand one thing, that we all have dreams. And as I leave you tonight, there is a staple question that has to burn upon the hearts and minds of every American as we reach toward our dreams. I need to know, as I travel across this nation, that there are people who are still praying for people who will hold up the banner of liberty. And tonight, the final question
I have that right because that right comes from God and not from the government. There are two movements, and they have to work side by side. And I'm not talking about a Christian coalition, not one that gets into politics, but gets into rights, gets into the basic things that our founders knew. We are going to be launching that part of the movement soon. And we are going to stand and draw a clear line in the sand. You tell me I can't pray where exactly? Give me the exact address, because I'm going to be there tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. Come as a spectator sport, everyone on the field. And you may not think that you have anything to offer. And people may not understand what you have to offer. And people might mock and ridicule you. You know, I'm wearing the bow tie because I'm just getting ready for more mocking coming my way. And I think it also makes Louis Farrakhan a little tight. Came here this week specifically for this from Hong Kong, because they need help in China and in Hong Kong. I talked to a woman in Japan. She came here this week for this conference because they're looking for a model in Japan. I talked to a woman who came from Canada for the same reason, because they need a model. You are the model the world is crying out for. Stand up and take the reins. I'm saying it for a long time because I know it is true. But it is only true if we dedicate ourselves to the universal truths that are self-evident. And we do it with love and peace in our hearts. And we don't leave anyone in the bleachers. Everyone's got a talent. We're working on the political. We're working on the spiritual. But the voting box is the last stop. The first stop is the cultural stop. And we have surrendered it. We all go to movies that we know are poison. We all read things that we know are poison, and we say to ourselves, because there's nothing else out there. Well, that's about to change. When you see the man in the moon tomorrow, it is my hope that you see that no longer will we let the dreamers and the great artists of our day be co-opted by the left. We can create a culture that celebrates America, that is not ashamed of fearing God. We can change the culture, and we have to do it, and imprint that on our children's hearts. Tomorrow, not the finger, not the hand, but both arms of God will guide us and protect us, because there is no other freedom if we lose it here. Trust in God and divine providence, and all is well. We'll see you tomorrow night. God bless.
Yes. I'm like, we all have bananas. Freaking like cheese.
Here's our fearless leader.
Hi, fearless and tired.
The Blaze Talk Radio 105.7 FM and 570 AM, the National Rifle Association, and Liberty University.
Every day I'm shuffling.
So that people can run by them, they're going on the lawn. The river, that was like ice. Walker's right.
But I'm going. They were both nice in the eyes.
I'll just photobomb it. Ready? Tell me when.
I told Raphael last night. Tell her when.
Spirit of music needs to be alive.
Hold on.
Yeah. So I'm excited. Thank you. We're the service. We're the Israel, and now we're turning into a big national service.
Driven across the U.S., staying in a big house together.
All the way from
Working our
Kentucky.
butts off. Painting houses. Of course.
My mom.
Oh look, I found your. We can just marry them off. Let's go back to arranged marriages. We can do this right now. There's the boy family. There's the girl family. I told Taylor, but we're near the finish line. But the kids are set up. They're doing a bake sale, raising money for Mercury One, and then we're tying blankets and painting starts for them. So we still have 3 service projects rolling today, but the kids are running it. So it's good. It's good. We're having a great time.
They tried to sit them down, you know. They tried to sit.
Yes, and these are all we.
Where are you guys from?
All over. Kentucky, California,
Ohio.
Wonderful.
Drove from Ohio.
Wow.
And Kentucky.
We're from all over. Where are you from, Marie?
Hey, my brother lives in St. Louis.
Really? Yep. And the Trasks over there are from Florida. We have the whole country, and we have Alaska.
And did you all meet in Israel?
Yeah, that was our bus, the Red Bus A. And then we've turned it into a...
famous Red
I'm Shelley from Red Bus A. I'm going to get in line and start greeting people. Hey,
Yes.
Tony, here we go. Hey, Shelley from Red Bus A. How are you? Nice to meet you.
It's Shelley.
You heard her on the radio.
Yeah. Did you hear me on the radio?
Yeah.
Robin driving from Kentucky.
Yes, this is the Robin. Yes.
That's so funny. That's just funny.
I got a shout out on the radio.
All right. Oh,
Shelley, I gotta get a picture with Shelley. This is like showing the folks I was with Shelley.
Just kind of protect it. And they're having trouble with them reading. And I thought, shoot, what can we do together? And I got him the Michael Bay book and read it in a day and a half.
I love it.
And I said, what do you think? And he goes, where's the next one? So when the next one came out, I bought 4. My nieces, I take it over to court and I say, okay, you ready? Because I said, we'll start together. He beat me. I said, that's not, you don't have a job. And he goes, have you talked to the rats yet? I said, I hate rats. He goes, oh, you're going to die. So every week we meet together and that was so much fun to have something outside of his bubble. And it was great. So thank you so much. We love it.
for what you're doing.
We just want to shake your hand.
Snap your neck, yeah. Just something simple. And it could just be with her finger or her thumb. That's it. Stop it. Well, we gotta wait our turn, buddy.
Sorry.
Where do you guys live?
She walks I'm in California.
I'm in Ohio.
Kentucky, Ohio.
Ohio. Drove all the way. Cincinnati.
Thank you. My friend Jenny does the ice cream in Columbus.
Oh, okay.
Did a Jenny's ice cream?
I'll have to check it out. Haven't been there yet.
You have to check it out. Look at all that smiling.
I'm just, we never know if he's taking a picture or video.
If it's this, it's video.
So how do you guys know each other?
We met on a charter bus on the way to Dallas for Restoring Love.
And you guys stay friends?
Yep.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And we've all hooked up. I met her in Cincinnati.
This is Shelley from Red Bus A.
Yeah, we're the Israel girls.
Yes. And we met in Israel for Free Pack in Ohio. Or I said Israel.
Wait.
Yeah, right.
And we did
our
you guys went
service project.
to Jerusalem.
I went, our Red Bus
she
A
did.
went to, we have our whole crew over there. They're running a lemonade stand. Our kids are doing a lemonade stand. And then
I saw that.
Yeah, and then we just got bigger. And now we have this is our service group.
Did you see me in Israel?
Yes! I saw you lots. I know, I was like, oh, poor George.
Well, you know something that's not too bad.
Woohoo! Oh, Speed Racer.
Yeah.
Mach 1. Great job. Oh, busting it. Look at them.
We made it! We did it!
Woo! 97 minutes. 97. Beat that.
Medic! Oh my goodness.
Well, that's okay.
I should know all that.
Cool. Sure. Not missing the crowd.
Nice to meet you. You guys have a pen or no?
We have a pen. Okay.
You can shake his hand too. It's on the radio.
Can you see it?
You giving it to the blind one? Shelley, take our picture with Stu. I'm taking pictures with my fan. It's just because Stu's over there.
His whole line disappears. Poor Stu.
I see what happens. Stu got scared with competition. We need somebody to take our picture. One more, sorry. What do I do? I have to learn how to do this. Just stand here and smile. Okay. Come on in, everybody. I heard you on the radio. Oh, thanks. Yeah, that's me. I know. That's why I keep hearing it. It's like, oh, okay, great.
Hey, let me zoom in. Love it. Oh, what?
If you go to Labor Club USA, that is links us to all the cities we've been to on Facebook. On Facebook. Oh, I know, no, not doing Facebook. I know, but we do have I Am Red Bus
Shelly, ready for photo mamas?
Yes, and so Red Bus A. I Am Red Bus A, right? I Am Red Bus A.com.
You should know this, Shelly.
Especially if you're .com. It's our Red Bus A.
Hi guys.
That's our.
Yeah, I stopped by your little
Did you
booth
go to
down
our
there.
booth?
Yeah.
Our kids are so excited.
We bought some lemon cakes.
Oh, great.
Hi.
Can we get a quick picture?
Okay, yeah, it's got to be really quick.
Hurry up, Billy.
There we go. It's like a 5K book signing here. A shirt signing.
That's the messiest signature I've ever done. All right, guys. You too? All right.
He's like, I already signed your shirt. Wait, there's two of them.
There we go.
There's two.
One more.
All right, go.
Thank you. Thank you.
All righty.
See you, Brian. See you, Jack.
Yep,
Take care, guys. We're walking, and we're walking, and we're walking.
That's like cool.
Tony, you gotta get
No
a picture
sugar,
of this
pink.
sign.
No
look,
sugar.
look how he spelled sugar.
No sugar.
You got that? Now, and I'm going to sit down and I would like
Don't move him, Molly.
Hey, Ben. Hey, Ben. How's it going, buddy?
hired a servant.
Can you wave?
I hired Ben. Ben's been hired. Ben, are you my personal... Ben, go give me some snacks now. Make some yummy.
Okay, these stars are for the Stars of Hope, which is a national nonprofit started in Texas, but has it pretty much goes from community to community who've been impacted by a natural disaster or some other tragic event. So recently, Stars of Hope has been in Oklahoma right after the tornadoes there in West Texas, but they're not just colored stars. We're helping get ready for an event where the people in those communities get an opportunity to pay it forward. They bring their families and they paint a message of hope on these stars, like a word like be strong, or the sun will come out, or a picture or a scripture. And then these stars are posted at places that have been devastated to give encouragement. That's awesome. And these stars are destined for an event on 9/11 that will be in New York and New Jersey. So we'll get them back to Joplin, and the folks in Joplin will get them to New York for 9/11 this year. We painted 500 of these stars. So we're so excited. That's what it's all about.
It's a legitimate reminder. Not all teachers are bad, not all schools are bad. Let me make that addendum. Not all Muslims are terrorists. Not all teachers are bad. Not all schools are bad. But there are a lot of bad things about public school. Look at the point we've come to here. Since the decision, 60 years ago in 1963, of the Supreme Court that God could not be a part of education, that he was not allowed in public school, have things gotten better, worse, or about the same? As my optometrist might say. Better, worse, or about the same? I think we all know it's worse, and it's not just a little worse, it is far, far worse. And so And little Susie Hogsnorkel, who was born without eyelids or something. If you ever tried to sleep without eyelids, you know how tough that could be. But little Susie's 3 years old, and she goes to a school that railroad tracks run right through her second period English class. Every morning, the 8:15 express to downtown rumbles right past her desk. That's how bad things are. Susie's working on her third teacher of the semester because the first two were hit by the train. So they tell these kinds of stories to emphasize how little we spend on education, when the fact is we spend more per student than any country on this planet. More for education per student than any nation in the history of the world. Over $15,000 per student. I think Michelle has done invaluable work exposing corruption in our nation's educational system, and the truth about federalized Common Core standards is spreading as Michelle has continued to be the voice of reason in an increasingly confusing world. Ladies and gentlemen, Michelle Morgan.
I have to thank, first of all, Glenn Beck. So many fires to put out there, so much corruption from top to bottom. And in the meantime, they have been fomenting and plotting and conspiring to hatch these progressive education schemes and to use our children as their political pawns and the junior lobbyists for the Alinsky agenda. And when they're trying to communicate to people what the problem is with Fed Ed, with this top-down control of every aspect of the classroom, we'll liken it to Obamacare. If you think Obamacare is bad, wait till you get a load of Obamacare. Here's the thing. That's just the first step in understanding how insidious this is. Because it might as well be called Bush-Core. Jeb Bush, George W. Bush, George Herbert Walker Bush, and an entire wing of the big government Republican Party that has forsaken the limited constitutional role that the government at the federal level is supposed to play. In the schools, they were teaching a pledge, not the Pledge of Allegiance, but I pledge allegiance to Barack Obama. They were pledging allegiance to banning plastic bags because they wanted to free children from the slavery of multiple choice and the tyranny of having one right answer. The players may change, but the theme of this unholy alliance between big government Republicans and far left progressives happens again and again and again. There are things that are different now than there were 20 years ago that give me hope and inspiration. And one is the rapid response that social media can supply. And so I said it the other day, and I am not joking, each and every one of you should sign up for Twitter. Ask your grandkids to help you. Every letter to the editor that you put out there, every blog post, every tweet, the comment sections of many of these websites, Education Week, and all the places where these people are crafting their narratives. Bombard them. We've got a critical mass. All the people who say they care about the children. Do it for the children. While they're rubbing their grubby paws and they can't wait to get their hands on our kids' hearts and brains. And we know that when we leave this room, we're not doing it for the children. We're trying to reclaim the schools, our government, and our country for our children.
education. David has been described as America's historian, and Time Magazine named him as one of America's 25 most influential evangelicals. David and his wife Cheryl have 3 grown children. They reside in Aledo, Texas. And I present to you now, David Barton.
It told you in that ordinance that you come to state, you get 40,000 inhabitants in your territory, you set up a Republican form of government, here's what you have to do with the elections, and here's what you have to do with education. And with education, that was Article 3 of the ordinance. Notice what it said. It said, religion, morality, and knowledge being necessary to good government and happiness of mankind, schools and the means of education shall forever be encouraged. Now, by federal law, why do we encourage schools and the means of education? Because we want to teach religion, morality, and knowledge. You cannot get into the United States as a territory if your public schools were not teaching religion, morality, and knowledge. There's a requirement to be part of the United States of America, and that's why when you look at state constitutions to this day, if you look at state constitutions of Ohio or state constitutions of North Carolina or Nebraska, it says forever in the public schools of this state, religion and morality will be taught as well as knowledge.
That change with that occurred in 1962, 1963. The U.S. Supreme Court, through 3 decisions over 12 months, starting with England Lytle, ending with Abbott and Shipburn Collect. They said, you know this deal about having voluntary prayer and having the scriptures in schools? We're not going to do that anymore. And now we've done it since the first public school law was passed in 1647. We've been doing this for essentially 300 years, 320 years, but it's time to stop. We've had enough of this. So for 320 years we did this in education, but we stopped at that point in time. Religion, morality, and knowledge went out the door. Thinking also went out the door. You look at top educators in American history is Dr. Benjamin Rush. He is a signer of the Declaration, ratifier of the Constitution, served in 3 different presidential administrations. John Addison, he's one of the 3 most notable founding fathers. He started 5 universities, 3 of them still go today. He's also the man who's called the father of public schools under the Constitution. Now, he believed, like the founders did, because he was one of the founders, that we should be teaching religion, morality, and knowledge and education. And as you look at the things that he did to help that, let's just take that phrase, religion, morality, and knowledge for a minute, and let's kind of examine that and look at it. Religion, morality, and knowledge. One of the things Dr. Rush said about religion, morality, and knowledge was pretty simple. In talking about what education is supposed to teach and learn, look at what he said on morality. Without religion, I believe learning does real mischief to the morals and principles of mankind. If you don't have absolute truth that comes from faith, and faith is based on absolutes and rights and wrongs and truth, if you don't have that and you get learning, then it's real problems for morals and for principles, because the 3 things we taught. This is teen birth rates for girls ages 15 through 19 years old. We take religion out of education and we lost morality. No question about it. Look at the results. 700% increase in teen pregnancies at that point in time. We can also look at sexually transmitted diseases. This is for junior high students ages 10 through 14. Look what happens to sexually transmitted diseases. We used to have 6 sexually transmitted diseases. We now have 27 sexually transmitted diseases. In addition to what happens with morality, he also pointed out in a piece that he did in 1791, he says, there's a dozen reasons we'll never take the Bible out of our public schools. And in the final paragraph, this is written on March 10, 1791, he said, you know, if any public school in the future were to take the Bible out of schools, he said they'd spend all their time and money fighting crime, and we could prevent crime right here in the classroom and teach the principles of the Bible. Principles out of schools, and it's pretty obvious what happened to behavior at that point in time. 694% increase in violent crime. Guess how much money you'd have to be spending out of your pocketbook if we still have a lower crime rate. You see, the problem is you can't control behavior from the outside. You have to control it from the inside, but we won't let education touch the inside anymore. Well, we do. We indoctrinate with all the wrong stuff, but we won't use religion, morality, and knowledge. And particularly what Benjamin Rush said, I believe there's the most knowledge in those countries where there's the most Christianity. In other words, where faith abounds, you have more knowledge. Look at SAT scores. Here's 1926 into the present. You see how they've been up there? Then we take religion out of education, and the results with knowledge is pretty apparent. We plummeted at that. Indicate the scores of standardized tests for kids who go through some form of Christian education, religious education. The red is public schools. Now you will notice that by the time you get to 9th grade, the Christian school kids have pegged out the test. By the time you get to 12th grade, the public school kids haven't pegged out the test yet. Now, this would make a lot of sense to me if the questions on the test were things like, name the books of the Bible. You know, Christian school kids are going to have an advantage on that. I said, what does John 3:16 say? Christian school kids say, it's not what it says. The questions on the test say, what years did the Civil War take place?
And I think the Civil War took place the same time in Christian schools that it did in public schools. It says to solve the following algebraic equation, and yet you'll find Christian schools, schools with religious knowledge are 2 to 4 grade levels higher across the board in every level. See, matter of fact, recently we had a year, and this is typical, where we graduated 700,000 of our kids who graduated that year could not read their own diploma. They were functionally illiterate. 700,000 kids a year can't read at the 3rd grade level. And that's despite spending $460 billion every year. Even the cheapest state spends nearly $10,000 a year per student on what they do with education. We're not getting our money's worth, nowhere close. We got 700,000 kids that graduate a year that can't read their own diploma. It's not just that. Look how we are with international testing. The last 19 years, we've been dead last in international testing, or right at the bottom. We get beat by kids from Poland and Russia and Bulgaria and Romania and all these other nations. But we finally saw a little uptick in American education on educational achievement. Recent tests, elementary kids, our kids did above average international testing, which is a good deal. Our junior high kids, they did right at average, and our high school kids did below average. Now notice here, if you've had a few years of American education, you're above average. If you've had a few more years, you're at average. If you've had a few more years, you're below average. Freshmen, they followed them all the way through until they left as seniors, and they found that over that 4-year period of time, the kids left with less knowledge than what they came in with. They actually lost knowledge. As they reported at many of the most prestigious colleges in the United States, seniors know less than freshmen about America's history, government, foreign affairs, and economy, a phenomenon known as negative learning. You're paying a good $200,000 for a 4-year degree that teaches you less than when you came in as a freshman. That's the results we've got in education. Now, this guy, the chief physician we have in America, graduated from Princeton University when he was 14 years old. Just out of curiosity, any of you comfortable with a 14-year-old doctor doing stuff? George was back then. Let me take you to another founding father. We'll jump ahead here to, if I can get my remote working, John Trumbull. John Trumbull, founding father. He was on the Connecticut Supreme Court. He was a literary figure. If you go to college today, go read literature from John Trumbull. When he was 4 years old, he had finished reading through the Bible for the first time. When he was 6 years old, he beat his minister in a Greek contest. When he was 7.5 years old, he passed the entrance exam at Yale University. But his parents said, well, we're going to hold you up to your 13 because that's when everybody else goes to university. And by the way, John Witherspoon, who's also signed the Declaration, when he was 4 years old, he'd also finished reading through the Bible for his first time at the age of 4, cover to cover, 4 years old. Let me take you to another founding father. This is James Iredell, a ratifier of the U.S. Constitution. He was put on the U.S. Supreme Court by George Washington. When he was 17 years old, he was the chief financial officer in his part of North Carolina. Imagine a 17-year-old running economics. Well, it looks like 17-year-olds are running economics today in Washington. But we had smart 17-year-olds back then. The education system we had turned out put good people in charge, 17 years old. Let me take you to John Quincy Adams. When John Quincy Adams is a mere 8 years old, he has his musket out with the Massachusetts Minutemen going after the British. When he is 14 years old, he receives his first congressional diplomatic appointment. He's sent overseas to the court of Catherine the Great in Russia. Again, imagine sending a 14-year-old overseas to Russia today as a diplomat. No, that was not at all unusual back then. A couple more examples. Andrew Jackson, when he was 13 years old, he was already a prisoner of war in the American Revolution for having fought against the British at the age of 13. You also have Maria Mitchell. Maria Mitchell is the first woman in American history to discover a comet. She also ran her own observatory, all with her brain. 12 years old, calculated the time of forthcoming solar eclipse. At the age of 17, she's running her own school in math and science. Take you to another group, Pony Express. I'm a cowboy, I love these guys. Pony Express, they go from St. Joe, Missouri to California in 10 days or less. Now, that's a lot of states to cover in 10 days. You're covering 180 miles a day on a horse. If I can cover 40 miles a day on a horse, he's worn out, I'm worn out. These guys did 10 days, 180 miles a day. Now, you look at the guys, and by the way, look at the rest of the poster here. You see what it says? Wanted, young, skinny, wiry fellows, not over 18, must be expert riders willing to risk death daily, orphans preferred. Notice, please, that this is an elementary spelling book. This is where you learn to spell. Let me show you some elementary spelling words from this little book. You can try to pronounce them if you want to. I'm not going to. I don't have a clue what they are. I don't know what they are, but I do know that for 150 years, these were elementary words in American public schools. This was our simple stuff that we learned in school. Here's geography. Let me show you an 1862 geography test. This is from Chicago. You see the date there, March 27, 1862. This is a fourth grade questions. So you have 35 minutes allowed for this exercise. Let's look at some of the questions we have in fourth grade. How many degrees of longitude are there? How many degrees wide are the temperate zones? Name the principal animals in the frigid zone. What portion of the people in the globe are pagans? What portion Christians? A little math question that we did in schools. If 6 men can do a piece of work in 5 days, in what time can they do it if they receive the assistance of 3 additional men when the work is half completed? Solve it in your head quick. You got an answer? Anybody got an answer? We can't even solve that with a computer today. So this is what we do back then. The Bible says very simply, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. We used to believe that. You fear God, you're smart. It helps you with math, it helps you with physics, it helps you with agriculture, it helps you with Pony Express, it helps you with anything you do. That's why we taught religion and morality, which produces knowledge. That's the order in that federal law. Religion, morality, knowledge. History proves that to be the case. So you look back at what we had for all those years, America's Educational Foundation, we train people to think, we taught them religion, morality, knowledge. I'm wrapping down. If you're interested in this, we've got this at wallbuilders.com. 4 centuries of American education. You can take some of those tests for yourself and embarrass yourself. But this is what we did. But if you're interested, go to wallbooks.com. God bless you guys.
That's okay. You listen to a radio program, you're on the team, don't worry about it.
Check out our new brand sandwich, gourmet nachos, and Hawaiian
for your community. Everything you do will affect someone else. And I really think that's great, that even if it's something simple, it makes a big difference.
About 3 years ago.
History of the heroes that have gone before us and the things that they have conquered. So how could we ever possibly hope to build on their success? We have to know history. This is why this weekend we've created an impromptu American History Museum that I know it was sold out the whole time, but we even added more, and it was running until midnight, and I hope a lot of you got to see it, and if not, share the pictures of the things that you saw with all of your friends, and especially your children, because they saw the actual evidence of America, both good and bad. And when we went into the museum, you saw the Disney prospectus that I was lucky enough to become the caretaker of last year while I was on stage in Dallas Cowboy Stadium. We had somebody that was bidding on that for me, and nobody bid against me, and it fell into my care. The Disney perspective hasn't really ever been seen even on the internet. It's what he wrote, and he hand-colored it. He said, this is what Disneyland is going to be. And he said it's going to use the facts and articles of American history to teach American history, to be a beacon of hope for the rest of the world. Well, somehow or another, I think a long time ago, they lost their way. And tonight we hope to pick that mantle up so we can teach our children how we can be a country that gives people hope and not a country that people should fear. We also hope that we will include some of the... And one Saturday, as I was looking for old books to help us understand what's happening to our world today, I ran across this book. An old book that we have tried to find another copy of, and we can't. It's not marked with an author. We've tried to find the author to discover who it was, but we can't do that either. As I pulled this book off this dusty shelf of this old man who had just passed, and I thumbed through its yellowed pages, before I knew it, I was down on the ground like I was when I was a kid watching TV. And I was sprawled down on the ground in this library reading this book, and before I knew it, I was looking for a light switch because the sun had gone down. 2 hours had passed, and I found myself immersed in one of the best stories I had ever read. It gave me a completely new way to understand who we are, where we came from, and what the answers are that lie just in front of us if we'll simply take the time to look. I warned Mark Twain, but let me show you how it works. Let me show you it is all in the best Wizard of Oz sort of way. It is all run from this capsule. Let me show you. This has got all kinds of toys in it. For instance, if anybody is having a hard time seeing me, how about now? Good. And also, are we ready? We also have equipped the amphitheater with surround sound. They didn't turn it on yet, did they? Now, we've equipped the amphitheater with surround sound. Of course it worked, unless you decided, you know what, gee Marge, I don't know, I think we should only buy the $75 seats. I mean, what's created the heaven and the earth. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved across the face of the waters. And God said, let there be light. And there was light. And God saw the light, and that it was good, and He divided the light from the darkness, and in the darkness He placed me, to remind all that on the morrow the sun would return. I am the watchman. I am the man in the moon. Covered in dirt and hair. But the other one kind of reminded me of Blue. And well, she was something to behold. They began to turn brown and made green spring from it, but in new patterns. And they commanded the other beasts, the larger beasts, the single-purpose beasts. The beasts shaped blue. They sheared green fibers into strands to gird around their animals, and they yoked those animals and pulled what looked like really heavy things across great distances. And mankind labored. I liked that. He worked. And he worked hard. And he bet. I looked at Blue. And even though I knew the light, my reflection still tortured me. But I found the courage to face my Blue again. I finally stole a glance, hoping that she would blush green again. In my loneliness throughout the endless quiet days, I kept looking, hoping for the green, hoping for the return of my love, my beloved beasts. I watched the Blue, but that was all there was. Blue. Right there on the deck of a mighty vessel, I saw them, the beasts, the hairy one, the little ones, and one just like my Blue, the great light,
The great light had prepared them, and they had listened, they had heard, and then they had seen the light, and they had followed him, and they had survived. I saw that each person living on Blue, each person dealt with light differently. They reflected light in their own way, but there was more. Man was now shining brighter than he had for a long time, if ever. But as always, the rebirth was short-lived, because their pursuit of excellence gave way to ambition, and ambition led to greed. I expected the great light to destroy and free, but I learned here that sometimes his plans are wiser than mine. This time, light helped them. They're so close. They're the ones. And he did. A different kind of man rose up among them. A man of light that knew what it felt like to be alone. A man of profound and constant sorrow. A man that saw the light and recognized the spot. A tall-hatted man who loved. A man that would not allow any beast to yoke a man. And then he did it. He brought the tribe back together. That had never been done before. And when his work was done, a beast rose up yet again and snuffed his life. Captured the power of the earth, and they could carry it in their hands. They would put the power in their machines, and their vessels now moved faster. And when they began to learn how to use what they found, man took the smallness of the things that he found in green and put it in his flesh. And with this, man learned how not to feel, how not to sleep, not to suffer. I watched them. And sometimes the knowledge of how not to suffer strangely created more suffering. The power of man's visions led to bigger machines, faster movements. The noise now of one man could be heard all across Blue, without a vessel, without man's paper. Man's voice and image rode the world on a new wave. Things were bigger now and faster and brighter, but none of these things called to me more than when I saw a man move on the wind like the creatures of the air. Lights on the special place went back on again, and the great bright street was lit again, and the giant lady, who hadn't had her flickering glow in a while, her light came back. Their light was coming back. Just as man should always look up. I, however, had forgotten to look down. For at that moment, just when I was beginning to believe, maybe this is it, there in the ocean, in a place even further away, a winged machine carried man's light, one I had not seen before, a light so bright that even I had to turn away. No!
It was a story, I believe, that was meant to be continued. And so it has. But the original author can't be found, and I presume is dead. So as I found this book and found it in my possession, I realized that it was now left to me to finish the story, or at least add the next few chapters of the story. So if I may be so bold to suggest the next chapter in this story. I imagine that after World War II, the moon being tired, millions of years of watching the same pattern, he was frustrated and depressed, fell into a deep, deep slumber, which caused him to miss almost all of the 20th century. But then something happened. Something happened that would wake the man in the moon again.
No man can fully grasp how far and how fast we have come. But condense, if you will, the 50,000 years of man's recorded history in a time span of about a half a century. Stated in these terms, we know very little about the first 40 years, except at the end of them, advanced man had learned to use the skins of animals to cover them. Then about 10 years ago, under this standard, man emerged from his cage to construct other kinds of shelter. Only 5 years ago, man learned to write and use a cart with wheels. Christianity began less than 2 years ago. The printing press came this year. Only last week, we developed penicillin and television and nuclear power. And now, if America's new spacecraft succeeds in reaching Venus, we will have literally reached the stars before midnight tonight. This is a breathtaking pace, and such a pace cannot help but create new ills as it dispels old. New ignorance, new problems, new dangers. Surely the opening vistas of space promise high costs and hardships, as well as high reward. So
Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed. Rocket 20. Tranquility, we copy you on the ground. You got a bunch of guys about to turn blue. We're breathing again. Back to line.
And the man in the moon was woken from his deep slumber by a faint and gentle tapping. One that he had not felt ever before. It was his beasts. And when he looked closer, he saw them. He saw them dancing and jumping upon his face. They were dancing together in the glow of the great light. They had done it. They had found their way. They had used their machines to reach toward him, and now they were one. He remembered. He remembered his first love, blue. He looked to blue, side by side with the beasts. They both gazed upon her surface, and there, gathered together, they watched. Every eye of every beast, even those in darkness, looked upon his face and his life. For the first time, all eyes were upon the man in the moon.
You sent your bravest and your best to visit me. It seems so long ago to you. was just yesterday. You came. You prayed. You stood in awe of blue just as I am. You gained perspective and you danced on my face. And for a short while, I felt the warmth of your light. As I gazed on your mankind, I noticed that all of you, everywhere, all of the beasts and the men stopped and looked up. All at once, for one day, unique out of the millions of days, all of you looked up upon my light as I looked down upon yours. Moon, how does the story of my tribe end? You see, the story is really quite simple. You and I are both celestial bodies. But you have something inside of you that I do not. The great Maker placed inside of you a piece of his light. It gives you a piece of his power. My little ones, I am sorry, but I cannot tell you how your story ends. For I am not the author. You are. And so, I will simply do what I was created for. I will stand in the light, so that in your darkest hour, I can remind you that on the morrow, the sun shall return.
Well, it's been one heck of an adventure, but now it's time to go home.
Oh.
How we all
We're
doing?
off. We're off.
Hello.
Heading home.
Heading home. You gotta get back here. Show their feet room. You see the floorboard?
We're back here.
Did
you get the floorboard up here?
Aren't you glad I lost 15 pounds before I come? I'd be bigger back here.
I am lost at sea, somewhere in the depths, 20,000 leagues. There's no hope in me, just a message in a bottle, and a note that reads, oh, moon up in the sky. Oh, someday you will see me shine. Hey now, Bilaloo, hey now, Bilaloo, tell me what it takes to shine just like you. Show me that the sun will be coming soon. Hey now, Bilaloo, hey now, Bilaloo, hey now, Bilaloo.
Sign that.
Can we get a reenactment of that dance?
It only happens after 1 in the morning when you run for office. That's a dirty little beaver. That's wrong.